Please take your seats in the main plenary. Our next session is about to begin. Please take your seats in the main plenary. Our next session is about to begin. Please take your seats in the main plenary. Our next session is about to begin. Please take your seats in the main plenary. Our next session is about to begin. Please take your seats in the main plenary. Our next session is about to begin. Please take your seats in the main plenary. Our next session is about to begin. Please take your seats in the main plenary. Our next session is about to begin. Please take your seats in the main plenary. Our next session is about to begin. Please take your seats in the main plenary. Our next session is about to begin. Please take your seats in the main plenary. Our next session is about to begin. Please take your seats in the main plenary. Our next session is about to begin.
Welcome back, everybody. Hi, my name is Charity Hung, and I'm the Deputy Director of the Partnership for Healthy Cities at Vital Strategies. Please join me in welcoming Commissioner Dr. Bisola Ojikutu to the stage. Thanks for joining us today.
Oh, thank you for having me. It's an honor.
Would you mind introducing yourself to the room for us?
Sure. So I'm the Commissioner of Public Health for the City of Boston. I am also the Executive Director of the Boston Public Health Commission, and it's just wonderful to be here.
So we're going to jump right into it. What would you say is you are most proud of in your public health career?
So I've been in public health for more than 20 years, and for most of that time, I have been an infectious disease doctor, primarily focused on HIV. And a lot of my work, obviously, was public health related. But ironically, what I'm most proud of is not related to infectious diseases at all. It's really related to our renewed commitment to non-communicable diseases in Boston and racial health equity. So it's very interesting. Boston is a very diverse city, a very great city, very resource-rich city, but we also have a life expectancy gap across our city of 23 years. So in a part of our city that is primarily high income and primarily white, life expectancy is 92 years. And in a part of our city that is low income and primarily black and brown, it is 69 years. So that's a 23-year gap. And the reason for that is really about non-communicable diseases. So it's about preventable cancers, it's about cardiometabolic disease, it's about drug overdose. And really when you think about it, the root cause of all that is really chronic disinvestment in our communities. It's about structural racism, it's about residential segregation, and those are the things that we are now going to commit to in Boston. We've actually issued our first population health equity agenda called Live Long and Well. And we've decided to make a pretty deep investment in really talking about and dealing with the social determinants of health within some of our most underserved communities. So I'm very proud of that work.
Thank you for sharing, and it's very important work given these times.
Yes.
Can you also share a little bit more about what the City of Boston is doing with the partnership?
Absolutely. So I'm also really excited about our work with the Partnership for Healthy Cities and Bloomberg and Vital Strategies. So Boston is a Vision Zero city, and it's actually the 10th year that we've been in as a Vision Zero city, so that's a great milestone. And I think it's been a very successful collaboration. And I think one of the reasons that it's been successful is because we've worked across departments, so it's not just public health, it's not just transportation, it's public health and transportation really working collaboratively. So it is about health in all policies, and I know that that's one of the things that we're all sort of struggling with, and how do we work across city departments, how do we work well across city departments, and that's been something that I think that we've, there's been bumps along the way as I've understood, but the reality is that it has been successful. So one of the things that we've done is focused in on safer routes to school, so really thinking about safety for our youngest, and I think that part of that work is really thinking to ourselves about the fact that, like most cities in the U.S., road safety is, it's important, but we're a relatively safe city, but there are also these intersections that are completely dangerous, that oftentimes are in our historically underserved communities. And a lot of those are around schools and where our kids are going back and forth and trying to get to school safely. So with this particular project, what we've thought through is both the operational pieces, so obviously speed bumps, expanding curves, pedestrian islands, those types of things, but really how do you create a culture of safety around our schools and really engage communities, engage the public schools, and really think about how to make this sustainable. Another aspect of our work, and really proud of the fact that we've been able to move this forward, is really think about safety standards for large vehicles. So one of the things that happened in Boston, and it's happened recurrently, is there's been some high-profile traffic injuries that have been involved smaller children, obviously that large vehicles cannot see. And then we also had another incident that occurred, someone in a wheelchair near a hospital. And these high-profile things had kicked off this energy around, let's do something better with our large vehicles. First of all, we shouldn't have as many large vehicles in our cities, in general, but let's make safety standards for them, and let's really think about how to make that a systems improvement. And then more recently, we're focusing in on our surveillance, because if we don't know that there's a problem in terms of motor vehicle crashes, we can't address the problem. So that's other work that we're moving forward under the partnership.
Thank you, Commissioner, and I'm so glad that Boston is leading the way, hint, hint. So last but not least, if we come to Boston, where should we go?
Right.
What's your favorite spot?
So let me tell you, it's interesting. Boston is one of the oldest cities in the U.S., as most people know, and there's lots of historic stuff to see, and the tourist, industry is a big thing. And we have great sports teams. But what I wanted to tell this audience is that irrespective of what's happening federally, in our country right now, irrespective of the tragedy that's occurring right now, Boston is a welcoming city. And Boston is a city that prides itself on diversity. And I think that what I would like you to know is that it's not just about the things that you think you're going to see when you come to Boston, the historic things. I want people to really come to Boston and see everything that's available. When I came to Boston about 22 years ago, I came during the summer. And what I realized is that, a huge portion of our population is non-US born. We have lots of immigrants across our city. In the summertime, we have Juve, which is the Caribbean Carnival. We have an African festival. We have the Chinatown August Moon Festival. We have all this great stuff to do. So what I would suggest, if you come to Boston, well, first of all, you can call me or text me. What we can do is we're not gonna stay downtown. We're not gonna go to Boston Common necessarily. We're not gonna go to the historic sites. We're actually gonna go into our communities, and we're gonna see how people are living. We're gonna eat some of the food from folks from all over the world, and we're gonna go to some of these festivals, because we know how to party, and I really would enjoy showing you that.
Thank you, Commissioner. You heard it here. You can text her if you're in Boston.
Please welcome to the stage public health student Alice Alzeibak.
Good morning, everyone. I'm Alice. I'm a student here in Paris. I recently earned my master's degree in political science and public health. As a public health, thank you. As a public health student, I know how much NCDs matter. But as a political science student, I understand that issues need public support for them to see political action. It can be hard to get people to care about NCDs because they don't think these diseases matter to them. They don't think NCDs are a big problem or have any connection to their own lives. So why should they care? Paris is my home. I was born and raised here, and when I talk to my friends about NCDs, I like to frame them in terms of my city, because this makes it relevant to us. Let me give you an example. Do you know how many people die from cancer every year? Is it option A, around 2 million, or option B, over 9 million? If you think the correct answer is A, please remain seated. If you think it's B, I invite you to please stand up. I can see that the majority of you are experts. Those of you who picked B, you're right. 9.3 million people die from cancer every year. And to frame that in terms of Paris, it's the same number of visitors to the Louvre Museum in 2019. That's a lot of people to lose to preventable diseases. Now let's try a second question. Do you know anyone who is living with NCDs, including heart disease, cancer, diabetes, or chronic respiratory diseases? If the answer is yes, I invite you to stand up again, please, if you can. Well, I'm not surprised that almost everyone in the room stood up. Every 2 seconds, someone aged under 70 dies from an NCD. This is why everyone should care about preventing these diseases. Thank you. I recently did an internship here in France at the Regional Health Agency. During this internship, I saw firsthand how actions to prevent NCDs can change lives. But it was statistics that shaped my perspective. It was people like Leila. Leila was 52, a mother of 2, and had spent years balancing work and family, always putting her own health last. She never felt sick, so she skipped regular checkups. Over time, she grew more exhausted, short of breath, and constantly battered headaches. She blamed stress until one day, walking home from work, she felt breathless. The diagnosis? Severe hypertension and type 2 diabetes, silent diseases that had developed unnoticed. These conditions could have killed her, but with the right care and lifestyle changes, she's now managing her health. Layla's story reminds me of my mom, always looking after others, never herself. And she's not alone. Non-communicable diseases don't strike overnight. They creep up silently, stealing time, health, and quality of life before taking millions of lives each year. Yet, they are largely preventable. With early action, we can change the outcome for the better. And this is why today's conversation on NCDs and mental health is so important, especially for young people. We have to raise awareness and make the world care, because we have the power to shape a healthier future for ourselves, for our families, for everyone. Let's take action now, so stories like Layla's become the exception, not the norm. I can make my friends care about NCDs, but how can we make the global community care? Now, I invite Dr. Etienne Krug from the World Health Organization to tell us how. Thank you.
Thanks so much, Alice. Good morning, colleagues. First, a few personal messages. Bisola, can I please have your number? I want to do that tour with you. Thank you so much. And congratulations also on the great work you do on road safety in Boston. And to Alice, wow, what a great speech. I'm very impressed. At your age, I would never have dared stand here and talk like that. I would not have been able, and probably nobody would ever have invited me. But you made my life very easy, because I'm supposed to talk here about the importance of NCDs. Alice did it much better than I do. I don't need to convince you more. NCDs are, of course, super important. They can be tackled. We have so many tools, and you know them, ranging from dealing with tobacco, unhealthy foods, air, etc., etc. And you're doing that. And most of the action happens at the local level. However, it's not enough. We also need action at the national and at the global level. And so we wanted to make sure that you don't leave this meeting without a bit of information on the upcoming United Nations high-level meeting on NCDs, which will happen this year in September. Some of you might know, some of you might wonder, why should I care about a big meeting in the United Nations? These meetings are important. They are an opportunity to bring together heads of state and tell them about an important public health issue. And testimony to the importance of NCDs, this will be the fourth high-level meeting of the United Nations General Assembly on NCDs. And I don't think any other health topic ever had 4 such meetings. They are quite rare. And they are an opportunity to brief heads of state on the importance of a topic and the solutions that exist, and get political buy-in. As we all know, top-level leadership, top-level political will is essential to tackle any big topic, and is essential to tackle NCDs. So in September this year, we will have the high-level meeting with a theme on equity, which in the current world, again, is extremely important. We're seeing policies being implemented more and more against equity. The policies that are going to come in the coming months probably are going to fuel inequities, are going to increase income inequality, gender inequality, improve the differences, and as we know, the poor people will suffer the more, and NCDs might rise because of that. So having this theme is going to be very, very important. I'd like to encourage all of you to make sure your head of state attend. To the mayors in this room, you still have 6 months to become the head of state, if you can, because we'd love to have you there as head of state, because you are true champions. But if you can't, please make sure your head of state is there. We need strong attendance. We need this high-level meeting to be a success, and we need the international community to leave New York energized to do more on NCDs. Thank you very much.
Please welcome to the stage from the City of London, Joan McCartney, from the City of Cape Town, Natasha Berkowitz, from the City of Paris, Eve Plenel, and from Vital Strategies, our moderator, Ariella Rajani.
Everyone. Good morning, future heads of state, as I should say. Thank you, Etienne, for the call to action. I hope you're all feeling energized as we cruise towards the end of our programming this morning and head into another very exciting afternoon. I am delighted to be joined by 3 public health luminaries who are having big visions for public health, doing the hard, daily, grinding work of making it happen, and represent 3 cities who are making progress as a result. So thank you for being here. Of course, you also have another thing in common, which is having the distinction of hosting us and this event in the past 3 years. Of course, we have London in 2023, Cape Town in 2024, and Paris this year. So to tie it all together, this is about cities making progress, the big thoughts, the hard work of public health, but also how moments like this and being in community with each other can really make a difference, and how we can use global networks to keep our momentum going. I want to say we will have 10 minutes as part of this session at least for Q&A. So please, as we go through this, write down your questions for my colleagues here. If you have questions from other sessions outside of the room, this would be a great time to ask them. But my colleagues will be available to answer questions. So we're not shy anymore. We've broken the ice several times. So I'm counting on all of you to have your questions ready to go. With that, Joanne, I'd love to start with you, please. So 2023, we were in London coming out of the acute stage of the lockdown. For many of us, it was our first international meeting, the first time we saw each other in person for the Partnership for Healthy Cities. But it's been 2 years since we were in London. Can you talk a little bit about the last 2 years and what's happened with regard to public health in London? What's changed and maybe even what stayed the same?
Yes, thank you, and I'm delighted to be here. I think when we met in London, as you said, we were recently coming out of the COVID pandemic, and what that pandemic showed us was that it exacerbated health inequalities that were already there. So I think when we met, there was actually a new determination, a new passion to actually act on that and to come together and really deliver change. And so since then, what we have done is particularly, and I'll talk about this shortly, I think, we've a renewed focus on air quality. We launched a program to support the health of our youngest children by providing a new program to provide free school meals, healthy meals, to all our primary school pupils. We've put defibrillators in all our London Underground stations, and we've increased our active travel and transport options. So a whole load of new work that's taken place, and a really renewed emphasis on trying to tackle those health inequalities.
Great, thank you so much, Joanne. I think that challenge is not just yours alone. We've heard from several other speakers that this is pervasive. This is why we do the work that we do, and it's great to hear more about how the pandemic really kick-started a lot of that action, and that's taken place since then. You mentioned air quality, and I'm so glad that you did. One of the ideas that generated a huge amount of interest when we were in London a couple of years ago, but also since then, was one of Mayor Khan's flagship initiatives, the ultra-low emission zones. And for those who don't know, these are interventions that have made neighborhoods and streets and entire parts of London have improved the air quality significantly. And, of course, these ideas were not necessarily welcomed off the bat. There's a huge amount of documented opposition to this, but also recent data that shows that it's improved the air quality for a huge amount of Londoners at greatest risk for health. Can you speak a little bit more about what you've learned from the ULAS process and where that work goes from here?
Yes, so as I said earlier, we've really focused on improving our air quality, and about a year ago, the Mayor extended our ultra-low emission zone to cover the whole of the Greater London area, and a recent report has shown that it's had significant impact on the health of Londoners, and in particular our youngest Londoners and our most vulnerable citizens. So across the whole of London, for example, levels of nitrogen dioxide, which really exacerbates asthma and lung conditions, has fallen by 27%, and more so in the central area, where it has more than halved those nitrogen oxides. So it's had a real impact on our health. We're obviously not stopping there, and you know we're increasing active travel options. We're drastically improving our cycle networks, installing EV charging points. If I can just speak as a politician for a moment, you're quite right. There was a great deal of opposition, and we know really loud voices in opposition to this. In actual fact, the political opposition framed the last election last year as a referendum on those policies. And I'm pleased to say that Mayor Sadiq Khan won decisively, and it turns out that people actually like breathing cleaner air.
Go figure. Thank you. Thanks, Joanne, for speaking to that, and congratulations on the work. We're, of course, thrilled to know that this work is now part of a cemented legacy. I'm going to move on to my friend Natasha right here. Natasha, thank you for being here. We were in Cape Town last year, and one of the things that the City of Cape Town did last year at the summit was actually announce a new urban health initiative. Can you tell us a little bit more about that?
Absolutely. Just hearing my colleagues speak here and all the work that's been done, I feel like the City of Cape Town has been on a similar journey to many of the cities here. So our Urban Health Initiative, to those that weren't there last year, unfortunately, you're welcome back to Cape Town anytime, is an overarching strategy to connect all the elements within the city, all our mandated responsibilities that ultimately have an impact on health. So what we're doing is identifying those core priority areas, looking at how we can implement policy and programmatic change, and then finally do monitoring and evaluation to see what impact those priorities and policy changes would have on health. We've had a very exciting year since then. It's been very busy, a year of consensus building, stakeholder engagement. We've built an urban health steering committee. Some of those steering committee members are here with us today, so if you want to chat to any of us to learn what we're doing, I welcome you in the last day and a half of the conference to do that. Through the steering committee, which includes individuals from not only the city health department, but other transversal departments that are involved in resilience and strategic planning and research. We have identified key stakeholders, done some mapping around that, looked at developing some key strategic documentation, and then also identified our priority areas going forward into the next year. So by the end of this year, we'll have an urban health implementation plan. We'll have established a community of practice with academics and local researchers, and also hopefully pull together a state of urban health report where we'll be looking at those core baseline key indicators that dictate and measure the health of the City of Cape Town. Ultimately, the aim of this initiative is to base health outcomes as priority setting mechanism and tool for the rest of the city. So ultimately, one of the key goals for the city is to create a healthy and economically active community.
Wonderful, thank you. A huge amount of work. I'm sure you're quite tired after a very busy year. But I think one of the things that's been so incredible about the work that you're doing is, as you said, making a dedicated effort to tie all of these threads together and then put it forward as a political priority and be able to make a resounding and unimpeachable case for the importance of urban health going forward. Without putting you on the spot and asking you to make yet another announcement, could you maybe speak a little bit to other priorities you have around NCDs and injury prevention for the next year?
Sure. So we've identified 7 key priorities within the urban health program, many of those related to NCDs and injuries. So for example, air quality and transport, we've lumped those together as they are synergistic, are some of our key priority areas, really strengthening our core baseline measurements and using those data for policy amendment and creation, expanding on our food environment work that we've been working with Partnership for Healthy Cities, focusing on just what we were speaking about just before the break as well. And then also around safety and injuries, looking at how to address, we know crime is a key issue within the city of Cape Town, and that impacts health as well. So how can we address safety and the impact it has on our communities?
Thank you so much, Natasha. And as you so eloquently put, again, the interconnectedness of this is critical to talk about and to unpack and to also codify around a strategy. So I'm sure you'll have lots of questions about addressing not just the content, but also the governance side of things and how we really get stronger in public health governance for NCDs and injuries. Ev, I'd love to turn to you, please. Thank you again, first of all, for putting on such a wonderful event for us and for hosting us. This has been absolutely incredible. I'd love to talk to you about not necessarily Paris in this moment, but about what you have taken away from other cities in the last 2 days.
Thank you, Ariella, and well, again, thanks to all the team because we're just the host city. You did everything. I'll take back from the past 2 days, but also the past 2 years, because I had the chance to be in London 2 years ago, and that's where our journey started. I'll take back 3 things. First, I'm sure Paris can go further on tobacco control. It's a policy where we've been shy somehow for historical, sociological reasons in France, cultural reasons probably. And so I'll propose to the next candidates, for municipal election next year, a strategy on tobacco control based on the amazing work some of you have been doing. The second thing, and that's what we're working on with the Partnership for Healthy Cities, is the importance of data, of course, but also a lot of you have raised the issue of economic outputs and how you don't just modelize or the data in terms of health outputs or health outcomes, but also how do you show the economic benefits of your health policy. So that's something I'd be happy to work with you on. And the third idea is what was discussed yesterday morning about communication and eloquence. We need political will, we need good data, that's true, but we also need wonderful leaders like you, and especially women leaders, if I may suggest. That's one thing we have in common here. So yeah, that's what I will let you on.
Thank you. I don't think you'll get any dissent, and if you do, we'll talk to them afterwards. But no, I love to hear you mapping out these priorities, and again, a great reminder of why networks are so important, because they allow us to also do some benchmarking and some internal priority setting and observing where other cities are progressing, maybe not our cities, and how we can maybe learn from each other and really catch up if there needs to be an area of catching up. So thank you for sharing what your priorities might be going forward. I want to pivot a little bit, Ev, and talk to you about sort of your professional journey a bit. I think I have in our minds that, if you're in this room, once an NCD person, always an NCD person, and that's not necessarily the case. You come from the world of AIDS activism, and you have a long history and an amazing history of being an activist. Can you speak a little bit about how you've brought that into your current role?
Sure.
Thanks.
Yeah, I usually talk in infectious disease summits, that's true. Well, the one thing the AIDS epidemic and the fight against the HIV epidemic has learned us for the past 40 years is that communities are, the community organizing and communities are this, the center of what we have to do. And talking about NCDs, of course, we need science, research, medical community, expertise, data. Of course, we need political will. But if we do everything just with those 2 pillars and we forget the communities, then we will fail. Because, with 3 pillars, you're more stable. Just to give you an example, the past 2 years we've been working on our environmental health plan that I mentioned yesterday. And we did focus groups in working class neighborhoods, in, disadvantaged neighborhoods with families whom we thought had no idea about endocrine disruptors, chemical pollutants, food policy. They knew everything perfectly. They knew exactly what was needed for the children. They knew that during pregnancy and the first 2 years of life, it's an exposure moment very, very important. But they told us what was complex for them in terms of buying proper food or accessing certain services. And we designed everything from what they had to tell us. And still now, our plan for environmental health is advised by a council that is half physicians and scientists and half civil society. So what AIDS told me, or the AIDS activism, is that we need communities and we need to pay attention, not just to the majority, but to minority issues.
Brilliantly put. I think the phrase is nothing about us without us, and I think it applies to all public health issues and especially NCDs. And I think that we're on that learning curve about how to meaningfully integrate community feedback, but also, it was put in an earlier panel, start from a place of community feedback. Don't make assumptions. Start by listening to the community and growing initiatives and policies from there. Yes, we know what works, but it won't work without community input, especially. So thank you for reflecting on that and bringing that into this conversation. I actually have a question for all three of you, and any one of you can jump in, or multiple. One of the other commonalities across this stage is that you represent cities with very strong mayors who have made public health a part of their legacy. It's been remarked on, and I think can't be overstated, how uncertain times are right now. International cooperation is falling out of favor, to put it politely, in many places. What comes to mind is how we can fortify the work that we're doing, and how have you fortified the work of your departments as the ground underneath us continues to shift and really doesn't provide a lot of stability. So would one of you like to comment on that? Yeah, please, Natasha.
So thinking about that, what comes to mind is continuity and really strong foundations. So anything can happen to any of us at any moment. Yeah. We are passionate people that are sitting in this room, but we may not be in these positions of power forever. So it's creating plans and programs and policies that can stand the test of time, and I think including community in that is so important. But then through any political shift, through any global crisis, that should we disappear, that foundation of what we want to achieve remains, and someone else can just step into that space and continue the work that was already started.
Yeah, brilliant. I don't think we have to convince this room of the value of policy, but that's certainly one of the benefits of working on policy and really thinking institutionally. Ev, Joanne, would you like to jump in?
Yeah. Can I say, I think one of the things that we all know in this room is that no matter what your national or international, what's happening there, that cities are often the instigators of real innovation and real policies on the ground that make a big difference. And so one of the things we've been very keen to do is to really fortify those partnerships that we had that actually were helped to be stronger during the COVID pandemic because we were working so closely together. So that continuity and that long-term planning so that you can make sustainable change is really important. But one of the other things we've done at the Greater London Authority is we've set up a new public health unit which offers advice and is providing an evidence base with the organisations that the Mayor of London directs. So that's having a real impact, and we hope a long-term impact, embedding that real evidence within all the work that we do.
Great. Again, policy change, but governance change to meet that policy change. Ev.
And maybe if I can add up something, is that we need to teach, we need to train our new generations. We're not that old, but still. When I started in public health 20 years ago, I realized that the generation above me hadn't created proper public health schools with community leaders teaching, with exchanges between political leaders, activists, and medical doctors, physician researchers. That didn't exist. I tried to create that three years ago at Sciences Po here in Paris. And I think it's really important that what we do, of course, we need to exchange, to share, to publish, but also to transmit to new generations. And I would like just to say a word for the wonderful talk we've had with Alice, if I remember correctly, before. So yeah, keep fighting and keep training new generations.
Brilliant, all three of you, thank you so much. I think, again, a lot of ideas here, not just about the vertical policy interventions, how does our governance stay fit for purpose? How do we make sure that it's able to uphold the work that we're all doing? And also, as you said, Ev, sort of bringing in the next generation so that when we all leave our posts and when the people above us and below us leave our posts, that there's a huge pipeline of great talent to continue working on this. Before we turn to Q&A, I just want to give any of you a last word, or sort of one piece of advice or one hope that you have for folks in this room about how they might continue the momentum after the summit and as we go home to our respective cities.
I think for me, it's about knowing the difference you're making to your communities, and actually being grounded in that is really important. So I've been leading the Mayor Khan's work on free school meals for our children, and while the policy, we know it's a good policy, it works, actually going into schools and talking to pupils, the teachers and parents is actually what makes me realise that actually the work we're doing has real value and is actually changing lives, and I think that's really important. So making sure you visit what you're doing and I think then you can talk with authority, but also you have then community champions who do that communication for you as well.
Brilliant, thanks, Joanne. I think what you're saying is sitting behind a desk and emailing is not it. Get out into the communities. Ev, Natasha, any final thoughts from you?
Just, I think what I learned from Mayor Hidalgo is that sometimes you really have to be bold and brave and don't just listen to your inner voice. So, yeah.
Yeah, I think coming off the conversation we had yesterday evening on that beautiful terrace was treat the network as a family. It's been wonderful to go through 3 summits now, meeting people that we engaged with at the first summit and seeing the growth in all of our work. So leaning off people that you've met along the way, sharing challenges and being each other's best supporters, really, because we all need sometimes a bit of a cheerleading squad at the end of the day after, it's a hard job. But just leveraging that network opportunity would be my recommendation.
Wonderful, thank you. What a nice note to end on. And yes, it is a very hard job. This is very hard work. We're here to support you. We want to be your cheerleaders and do as much as we can to make sure that your work is protected and keeps moving forward. With that, I would love to open it up to the audience for any questions you may have. Again, a reminder, we have headsets that we will use for folks who may want to ask a question in their language. Is there anybody out there who would like to ask a question for the panel? Please don't be shy. I can't really see. Yep, right up here in front. Thank you. Yeah. Is there a microphone that we can get to the front? Coming, thank you.
Good morning, thank you to all of you for a wonderful panel. I'm Jenna from New York City Health Department. I wanted to ask a question about, several of you talked about making economic arguments and really thinking about economics. And I want to take it even a little bit further. And in public health, I don't think we're great at thinking about the other audiences. We often think that the evidence is so obvious and that we've done all of our homework and that everyone should agree with us. And I think we're all getting smarter at thinking about how do we make the business argument, the economic argument, other arguments. But I would love to hear you all, and you too, Ariella, reflect on how do we get better at that? Is it bringing in health economists? Is it certainly thinking about communication, but how do we get better at talking to different audiences in different ways so that they listen and want to come along with us?
Wonderful. Thank you so much for the question, Jenna. I'm going to turn to the panel, not to pick on you, Natasha. We were just talking about this yesterday with regard to how to generate more support around political leadership. Do you mind?
Yeah, sure. I'm actually going to take that out of the political space, but into the government official space. And I think taking a step back, and I completely agree with you, as a public health clinician, the numbers are obvious to me. And then when I see things published in the media and people go absolutely wild about it, I'm like, no, but that, everyone knows that. So I think in this journey, what I've found most helpful is that we don't just look internally in the public health space, but in departments that you wouldn't traditionally perhaps talk to or engage with. So in the city of Cape Town, we have departments that really are advisory and strategic guidance and research for our political leadership, and collaborating with them to translate our public health language into a language that city leadership, so our official leadership, as well as our political leadership will understand. Because remember, those are the departments that are, creating our broader city development plans, etc. So if you can get starting off with 2 lines about public health in those strategic plans, and then expanding that into the language that's needed, that's where we've started, and it's been incredibly helpful to create community, to create consensus, to create buy-in from different departments. Joanne?
Yep. Can I just give an example of the ultra-low emission zone in London? And as we talked before, there was a lot of opposition to it, particularly amongst businesses who were concerned that vehicles travelling around would have to be replaced. I think, first of all, the mayor made the case that it was actually there was a good moral argument. It's a real social justice issue, because health inequalities was at the heart of it. But actually, we also made the economic case as well. We did an evaluation before the project went live that showed the amount of days that would be saved for employers through workers going off on ill health. We talked about the savings in the many millions to our local health service, which would enable people to get treated quicker because doctors were not busy dealing with so many asthma cases, for example. So I think the economic case is important, but it's the framing of how you do it so that it's understandable and relatable.
Maybe on this aspect, because we realized by working for this summit that we've had in Paris this health in all policies approach, but without stating it, and so without counting how much we invested in topics that are related to health or have health outcomes. We have a gender budget, but we don't have a health budget like that, a cross-sectoral budget that would see what my colleagues invest in greening the city, how much it costs, what they did for food policy. For instance, the food policy I showed yesterday is not integrated in my budget, so I can't estimate it. So that's one thing I'm coming back from the summit with, and I'd love to work on this year. That's on the costs, and of course, on the other end, the economists, and I agree with you, we definitely need health economists in our teams.
Yeah, thank you. And thanks again for the question. I think that puts it perfectly, Evan, is a great segue into the sort of a broader conversation that's happening right now, as Etienne mentioned, around the UN high-level meeting and at the city level, but the national level. And in this moment of really constrained resources, where do we find resources to support NCD and injury prevention? And it starts with better identifying, I think, where resources already exist and stronger indicators so that we can actually track and articulate the health outcomes from investments that sit outside of the health sector. So I think, yes, it's about appealing to people in ministries of finance and departments of finance on what the public health sides are, and I think we all hope that they're enlightened and hear about number of lives lost and morbidity and mortality, and they're persuaded to action. I think it's also about doing a bit of homework ourselves and becoming better informed about what their incentives are, what their motivations are, and how we can change and influence larger tracking systems and investment systems to make sure that they reflect public health impacts. Other questions from the audience? Right in the back there, thank you. We'll have time for this very quickly and then perhaps one more.
Super, thank you. Speaking from Dublin, it's very interesting to get such a cross-section of different ways of approaching public health and how it may interface other areas. Looking back, based on the knowledge you have now so far along your journeys, if you were to go back in time, is there anything that you do differently?
Oh, thanks, Jack. Putting people on the spot. Would anyone like to respond to that? Ev, take it away.
Yeah, of course. I mean, it's never 100% perfect job, and there are failures. For instance, in the relationship between local and central government, there are things now I would do differently. We've tried to partner with central states agencies. We've tried to accept the way public health policies were designed in France at a national level. We accepted that because we thought, you're creating a Department of Public Health in your city. Don't make everyone mad at the Ministry of Public Health. So, let's try to work together. And in many areas, it didn't work because the way public health policies are designed at national level doesn't take into account communities, doesn't take into account how people actually live, or how users like the last mile of the policy. So today, I would fight more than I did 3 years ago. And I would tell them more clearly, what you're doing is just, not imagined the right way. And I'm specifically thinking of a vaccination campaign on HPV, on papillomavirus, that was designed completely, not well. And we've been struggling with it for 2 years. And so, yeah, that's what I meant by saying, be bold. Sometimes, have the courage to say, we're not doing this way.
Absolutely. I think if we all leave this room with one message, fight more. That's a good one. One more very quick question maybe from the back, if that's all right. So someone had their hand up over there. Yes, you sir, over there.
Yes, thank you, our panelists and all the other previous speakers. My name is Victor from Nairobi, Kenya. I would like to know, especially in the space of healthy meals, how have you been able to fight the multi-billion-dollar food industry to try and achieve these things? Because I know they play a very big role. Thank you.
Thank you, Victor. Who wants that question?
Should I start?
Please, Joanne, thank you.
Yes.
We only have a minute left, so you don't have to get too into it, but please, thank you.
Well, when Mayor Sadiq Khan in London was first elected in 2016, one of the first bold policies he put into place was banning junk food advertising on our transport network. And there was a lot of opposition to that from opposition politicians, but also from the food and drinks industry. And I think, so they did try to challenge about how the policy in particular was implemented, but we persevered, and it was difficult, but we got through it because we knew it was the right thing to do, and the evidence shows that it actually works. So I think it's about that persistence, it's about that fighting, but also making sure that you have the evidence and you have the robustness in your policies so that they are less likely to be challenged. I mean, the other concern was with the advertising, that it would mean a loss in revenue for our transport authority, but actually it hasn't been, and it hasn't led to that. And what it has done with actually trying to engage the industry, what they have done is they've tailored the advertising, so they may not advertise their sugary drinks or their unhealthy food. They are more likely now to advertise more healthier options. So they have adapted, and we have stuck to our guns.
Again, fight more, stick to your guns. Well, thank you for that answer. And again, strong evidence wins the day. I think the work that you did on the ad ban is really a testament to that. And Victor, and for anyone else in the room who wants to talk more about tactics, I think these folks, but also anyone in the room, would be a great resource for doing so. Thank you so much. Please join me in thanking our wonderful panelists.
Please welcome to the stage from Bloomberg Philanthropies, Kelly Larson.
That was fun to see representatives from hosts of the last 3 summits up on the stage. I guess the big question will be, who will host the next summit? We'll keep you posted on that. So this concludes our official plenary of the 2025 Partnership for Healthy Cities Summit. And I wanted to take just a couple minutes to try to give you some key takeaways from the last 2 days. We've got extraordinary expertise in this room and in your cities. And we just want to encourage you to continue to be each other's best supporters. And we at Vital Strategies and WHO will do our best to facilitate the exchange of all of your expertise. Over the last 2 days, and yesterday in particular, we learned more about communicating complicated NCD and injury messages in simple ways. So keep refining your messages and remember that repetition, and I think Jamie said we need to hear things 3 times before we remember can, as she said. Keep giving clear and simple messages and understand your audience. Mayor Hidalgo mentioned that public health needs political courage. And Patty said that Mike always says, nothing important is easy. So thank you to our mayors for their political courage in all of the work that they do, and to all of you for your efforts. We want to congratulate the award winners this year and know that in 2027 we will give awards again at that 2027 summit. And then finally, we get to come together once a year, but we'll continue to support the networking and exchange of information throughout the year. So please take advantage of the networking opportunities, whether it be in person, regional, by topic, and Vital Strategies does such a good job of coordinating all of that work. So again, thank you so much. We're excited for the year to come. We're appreciative of the last 2 days, but our summit is not over, actually. Concluding this session here, the technical leads will go straight into lunch, and mayors will be meeting outside in the hub. And the mayors will be having lunch with Mayor Hidalgo at City Hall. So that will be a lot of fun, and we'll share more about that tonight at the Eiffel Tower. The buses will leave at 5:30 tonight for the Eiffel Tower. Don't forget to bring your credentials, because they won't let you up without your credential. And if you lost yours, I've had to get my credential printed twice. So don't hesitate to get a new credential. And then tomorrow we have networking. So Vital Strategies and WHO have organized different opportunities for networking. And so we look forward to seeing all of you tomorrow, a little bit more informal. And so it should be a lot of fun. So while I conclude, we always need to say our thank yous. And there are many thank yous, and probably can't thank every single person who helped put all of this together. But first and foremost, we would like to thank the City of Paris for being such a great co-host. It was 3 months of weekly calls and very clear planning, and they were really great partners, as were Cape Town and London. Emily Hiltzik with Bloomberg Philanthropies coordinated this entire event. Big shout out to Emily and her team, thank you. Event Concepts, who made this beautiful room and made everything run so smoothly. And Canvas for getting all of you here and comfortably situated. Obviously, the Hotel Intercontinental. And then our partners, Vital Strategies and WHO, who take care of you every single day. And we're really proud at Bloomberg Philanthropies to partner with both those organizations who are doing such a great job in supporting the Partnership for Healthy Cities. So thank you. This concludes the plenary of the summit, and we'll continue with the fun and networking throughout the rest of the day and tomorrow. Thanks again.
Thank you for joining us this morning. Lunch will be served in the hub from 12 until 1 o'clock.